Welcome to Candid Conversation. Yesterday I talked about God helps those who help themselves, and just an offshoot of that, today is what we're going to talk about is the city versus the country. And really the city is the creation of man, led by the devil. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because when God gave man free will and man chose to rebel, then God has placed in place, he placed two checks against man's free will. One is marriage, and the other is family, or having kids. The marriage, what that does is that God created a male brain and a female brain. Both have good characteristics to them, but they can also be used for evil because of the sin nature that man has. And so if a man marries a woman, then the woman uses her brain to put the man's sin nature in check, because the woman thinks that the man's sins are disgusting. And then the man keeps the woman's sin nature in check because the man thinks that the woman's sins are silly. So they keep each other's sins in check. Whereas if you're just by yourself, then you can do whatever sin you want. You don't think your own sins are silly, or you don't think your own sins are gross or sick or weird, because you have a better opinion of yourself than that. So God creates marriage to where the two become one, but yet you've got the two different brains and two different bodies. So you got two different ways of thinking and two different bodies, and you both got to come to the same conclusion. And so that keeps the craziest, the weirdest, sickest part of man's sin nature from him doing that, and it keeps the craziest, silliest part of woman's sin nature from her doing that. And then even if you do decide that you're going to come together and do some kind of sin, well, then you got your kids. You have kids, and so you want to set a good example for your kids. So with unbelieving man, God creates the desire for a man to be with a woman and vice versa, and he creates the desire to have kids. And so by doing those things, it keeps you from sinning all that much. Of course, you're still going to sin. Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. And if you never believe the gospel, if you've never trusted in Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection as atonement for your sin, then all you're going to do is do the sin nature. But if a man is married to a woman, then he's not going to go out and murder and rape a bunch of people. And if a woman is married to a man, she's not going to spend her time gossiping and backbiting and being conniving out there, because she's got to consider her husband and her kids. So God creates those checks. Now, what man does in rebellion, Cain murders Abel, and God says, well, your punishment is you're going to be a vagabond. And Cain says, no, I'm not. I'm going to create a city, and I'm going to name the city after my son Enoch. And what the city does is it destroys marriage and kids. Because if you're out in the country, you got to take care of everything yourself. If you don't have a city or anything, it's just you're out in the country, well, then you've got to, let's say you've got a farm, well, you've got to do all the things on the farm. You've got to mow, you got to get rid of all the weeds, you got to plant the seeds, you got to water the crops, maybe you got to build fences, maybe you got to do things to get bugs off of your plants. You got all this stuff that you got to do. And then you get all that done, well, then you're just so tired, or you don't have the resources to be able to do the stuff in the house. And that's where the woman comes in. So the man is good at the manual physical labor. His body is made for that. And the woman's mind has been made to take care of all these details. Women are very detail-oriented. So then the woman, the man, he's thinking, I got to get out there and I got to get all the weeds out. That's what I got to do today. He's just a one-track mind, thinking of what he's got to do out there in the field. And he won't even think about all the little details that he should have, like, well, you know what, I should probably eat something, and when am I going to eat for lunch? I'm going to get hungry later on, I got to eat something then. And but I got these pants here. I only have one pair, and it's got a big hole in it. So now, I'm going to make the pants worse. He doesn't think of all that stuff. He's just thinking, I got to get out there and get rid of all those weeds. So there's where the woman's brain comes in. The woman, she's not thinking about all those weeds. She's thinking about, well, I got to hem his pants. I got to make him breakfast. I got to make him lunch. I got to teach the kids, because now the kids are, they're real small, and I got to teach them give them an education. And so then that way they can, because they got to grow up and take care of themselves one day, so I got to give them an education on that. And so the woman is thinking of it's just fascinating how God made the man and the woman's brains different, and he made the man to focus on the manual tasks and the work, all that stuff, and the woman to take care of all the detail stuff, to take care of her husband and her kids and all the details of life. And so you need a woman in that scenario of out in the country, the woman will never cheat on her husband, because she knows if she does, then the man is probably going to leave her or get rid of her, and she's going to be shamed, and she can't find another man. And then what's she going to do? I mean, she's got to depend on the man to do all that manual labor. Her body isn't made to do that manual labor. So now she's got to depend on the man. So even if she's tempted by some cute looking guy out there, she knows in her mind she better not yield to temptation, because then once she cheats on her husband, he kicks her out, and she's out of luck. She's not going to find another man to take care of her, because she's known as a cheater, and she can't take care of herself because she doesn't have the body to do all that manual labor to take care of herself. The man, the same way. The man, he's not going to go into town and try to find some cute looking girl. One thing is he's just too tired. He's done all this manual labor, and he just wants to sit down and relax. He doesn't have time to think of that stuff. Your mind, was it an idle mind is the devil's playground, or I don't know, some kind of saying like that. And it's true. I mean, if you don't have anything to do, then yeah, your mind starts to think of all these sins you can do. But if you're busy with work and stuff that you got to do, you're not going to go out and try to find somebody. It's just too exhausting. You're already tired as it is. You're not going to try to find somebody and sleep with some other woman that you think is cute. You don't. It's too exhausting. But even if you did want to do that, your sex drive is so strong, you decide, even though I've been working all day, I'm going to find me another woman. Well, your wife isn't going to like that. She's going to try to keep you from doing that. She's got ways of making your life miserable if you try to cheat on her. And even if you do, well, now she may end up leaving you and going to live with her parents or something because you cheated on her. And you need a wife, because you can't hem your own pants, or you don't have the time to make your own food, or you don't know how to do it. All the tasks that the wife does in the house to support the family are very necessary. You need those things done, and she's the only one that has the time and the ability to do it. You can't do it, or you don't have the time to do it. You're too worn out from being out in the field. And so in a country setting, and it's the same with whatever job it is. Maybe you run the general store instead of farming. It's the same type of concept there. You need a husband and a wife together. You need a team, a man and a woman, to make all of that work. Because in a country setting, you've got to do everything. But when Cain, he rebels, he creates a city. Now, the checks of marriage and of family, of having kids, goes away. Because another thing I didn't mention about the kids, you also need to have kids. Because there's going to come a time when you're too old where you can't work as well as you used to. You can't take care of the farm yourself because your body aches. It's worn out from all the years of hard labor. You can't take care of the farm like you used to. You've gotten too old for that. Too worn out. And so, but you've got kids now, and you've trained them up, and now you've got your boys have become men now, and now one of them can take over the farm. and they can marry a woman, and they can do that, and then you'll stay with them. You and your wife will stay with them in your old age, and as payment for them being able to take care of your land and your farm, you give that to them, and they take care of you for the rest of your life. And so all that works great. So if you don't have the kids, what are you going to do when you get too old to take care of that stuff? The woman's eyesight isn't good enough to be able to see what she's, how to mend your pants. She can't do it. She can't thread the needle. She can't see the thread to go through the eye of the needle because her eyesight isn't that good, or her hand isn't steady enough to sew it. And you can't work out in the yard. Your body aches too much. You've got too many problems with your body. You can't do all that. So you've got to have a wife to help you during those hard labor years. And then when you're not able to labor anymore, you need kids to take care of you. And so the country life is beautiful. That's what God has designed. But you notice Cain. You see, Cain wanted to do the lust of the flesh. You can see that he did that because he murdered his brother Abel. So he doesn't care about living a godly life, letting Christ live in him, staying away from sin. He wants to do the sins of the flesh. So he creates a city. And that's where it comes. You notice that the city culminates in Genesis chapter 11 in the Tower of Babel, where they're all united as one. They say, we are going to build a tower to reach unto heaven, and we're going to overthrow God. We're going to be God. That's what they're saying. So then God creates a third check against the sin nature, and that's nationalism. And nationalism, that governmental rules over you, is put in place to take care of the sin nature in a city situation where you don't need to get married or you don't need to have kids. So you're in a city situation. Getting married probably isn't your best option, because in the city, the spiritual is not what's important. It's the economic that's the important thing. So now, you get married, what you do is, first off, you don't need a wife because of division of labor. You don't have to do all the chores. You can, if you just want to go work a job and do that one job every day, all day, and you get paid really well to do it because that's where your expertise is. So now you got extra money because you're doing a job that you do really well, so they pay you really well for it. And so now you got that extra money, and you can rent an apartment or rent a house. Then you don't have to take care of that stuff. Even if you do have your own house, or let's say you have an apartment, well, you can get somebody else to do things for you. You say, I don't have time to prepare food. Well, I got a microwave. I got money. I go to the grocery store, I can buy a TV dinner, I can stick it in the microwave. 5 minutes later, I got a meal prepared. I didn't have to buy a bunch of raw ingredients, chop them up, come up with a recipe, take all this time to clean the dishes and all that. I've got a TV dinner that I bought at the grocery store. I stuck it in the microwave. They cooked it for me in 5 minutes. I've got a plastic fork that I can use to eat that meal. So there's no dishes and I throw away the container it came in. I just the other day bought 8 Boston Market TV dinners for $2.10 each at the grocery store. They had a sale, 50% off. I bought 8 of them. There's 8 dinners right there. And I don't have to take the time to prepare it. I don't have to know how to prepare it. I don't have to wash any dishes. That's all done. Mowing the grass, I don't have to mow the grass. I can hire somebody. Remember, I got money now because I'm a city boy, and I got more money this way because I'm division of labor. I'm doing a job. I'm getting paid well for my job, so now I get somebody else to mow the grass. And so you look at all the tasks that I had to do around the house. You don't have to do them. What about kids? Don't you need kids to take over? There come a time when I can't do my job anymore, or it's not too practical because of my age. I get old. I can retire, and I don't need kids to take over because I got Social Security or I got state retirement plan, and so I have money coming in, even though I'm not working once I retire. See, what the city did is, sure, they've created rules to say you can't murder and you can't do all these bad things, but man in a sinful flesh overturns that stuff. And at the same time, they create things that will help cater to the sin nature. Because we like our sin nature. We love our flesh. We want to nourish it and cherish it. So Yeah, I don't need to get married because I've got all these appliances at home that will do, washing clothes. I don't need a woman to be out there with the washboard and all that and working hard. I can take my clothes, I put them in a washing machine. And when they're done, I put them in the dryer. And when they're out of the dryer, I can put the clothes away. I mean, sure, it takes a little bit of time, but not like it would, and not all the manual labor that's involved if I was to not have those modern appliances of a washer and dryer. So I got the washer and dryer. Washing dishes, well, I said if I get the TV dinner, I don't need it. But even if I do create my own meal because I want something that's better than TV dinner, got a dishwasher. I put the dishes in the dishwasher. Take care of that problem. Like I said, mowing, I can get somebody to mow the grass. Nowadays, they've got mowers that will self-mow. I mean, you can set it, figure out the parameters of your yard and everything, and you can just set that thing out. It'll mow by itself. You don't have to mow the grass. Or maybe, like I say, you have an apartment, you don't need grass. I mean, there's all these things that a wife would do when you're on the country that are very necessary, and now you don't need them anymore because you've got all this modern technology. And I don't need the kids to where I'm too old to work to take care of me. That's what Social Security is for. So what the city has done is it's taken away the checks of marriage and kids. So what happens is man, when it comes to, because he still has sexual desire, God's put that within him. And so then man says, well, before I needed to marry a woman, because then that's the only way that would work in order for me to have kids. But I don't want to really be married to that woman because that woman has a different mind than I do. And she thinks that I am too weird and crazy with all the sins that I want to do. And then I look at the things that she wants to do and I see how silly she is in doing those things. Problem solved then. I'll just find somebody to fill my sexual desires with the same sex. And that way, we all have the same brain. We both have a brain of a man, or the opposite is a woman with another woman, brain of a woman. And so the other partner isn't going to think that what she's doing is silly because in her mind, that's exactly what you want to be doing. And so now the check on the sin nature is taken away because you don't have a man and a woman with two different brains with the one there to check against it. Instead, you've got two of the same brain. And you can do that and still fulfill your sexual desires because you don't need to have kids. Because a woman and a woman or a man and a man can't have kids. But we don't need kids anyway because we got Social Security. You see? So what it does is in the city, the checks against those things are taken away. And on top of that, since everything is about the economy, now all these extra things are created that we need to do that in the country you didn't need to do. My grandmother, she would take a bath on Saturday night because Sunday was church. And that's what she did. She took a bath once a week. Now, she worked hard out in the field because she had to, we didn't have a farm or anything, but we were too poor to have her not do anything. So she's raising tomatoes and squash and, okra, and we had avocados. She had all these different fruits and vegetables that she grew in the backyard. She worked hard back there. Chasing gophers. I remember her doing that there in California. Chasing down gophers and trying to keep them from getting on the crops. Or the green worms that would get on tomato plants trying to eat the tomatoes. She's got to take care of those. Then when she gets all the food, she's got to prepare it. There wasn't anything as a microwave. She had to cook it. She had to put the ingredients together. She worked hard. So my point is, she's working hard outside. She's sweating. But how often did she take a bath? Once a week. Why? Because we don't have time to deal with all that stuff. But nowadays it's, you got to take a bath every day. Every time you go to the bathroom, you got to wash your hands. And you got to put hand sanitizer on before you shake somebody's hand. Oh, you got to wear a mask because maybe you're sick. So you got to have this virtue signaling going. You got all these rules that people came up with that 100 years ago out in the country, you didn't have those rules because you didn't have time to fool with that stuff. I don't have time to worry about if I'm 6 feet apart from this other person or if I've got a mask on. I've got to get these weeds out of this yard. I gotta get food on the table later on. I can't be worrying about the social distancing stuff. There are all these rules that society creates. Well, the reason is because society is economically driven. Why do you think they're so worried about climate change? We've had climate changes all the time. It's called spring, summer, fall, winter. It's always changing. Sure, you may have a hotter summer than normal or colder winter than normal, but next time it'll be milder. We've had a very mild winter this year. Hasn't been really cold. Next year, maybe we'll have an unusually cold winter. That's just how things go. Everything's not exactly the same. The seasons are different, and the variations, the seasons can differ one year from the other. So, but we talk about climate change because that way we can make a bunch of money off of all the policies we're going to implement in order to try to combat climate change. And the reason you got to have 6 feet apart, social distance, and have hand sanitizer and masks is because all of that is money. Nowadays, it used to be a phone. A phone was at home. Now, everybody's got a phone with them, and they're watching the phone. They couldn't survive if they didn't have a phone in their hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yet a phone was a big afterthought when you were out in the country. So society creates all these rules that you got to follow and all these things to make money. And they've destroyed the checks and balances against the sin nature. And so what it shows is God's idea is the country. Going back to the simple life is great. You go back to simple life, then you got time to read your Bible and to pray. And you're doing that when you're trusting in God instead of trusting in man and the government. So that's why the city is such a big thing. And where do you see all the crime and all the ungodliness and the atheism and the wickedness? It's in the big cities. Because the checks against the sin nature have been removed. So the city, God didn't design that. That's Satan's creation. God likes the country. Thanks for watching.